Hey, David Wygant, 10-minute daily reality check. Don't look at the kitchen behind me in my office. Then you'll see what I ate this morning, which is absolutely nothing. Jake is here from TrendSpider. Hey, Jake.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's always good to be on.
You know, Jake, some people made some comments, and they go, look at all the lines on the chart. And I think people need to realize that those lines that are drawn in, you can see higher highs and higher lows, lower highs and lower lows. You can see the waves. If you really look at what's going on between the lines, everything is a hell of a lot clearer than a lot of other charts. Because, I mean, if you've ever traded, and a lot of people like to trade up and think is swim, I just call it like it's the worst charts in the world. I mean, you sit there and you go, is that the 50 hidden in there? I swear, I think it's hidden in there. I'm not quite sure, right? So I want to show guys, before we talk about what we're going to talk about today, I want to share my screen. Of course, hold on. Let's see, where is share screen? Maybe share screen. Okay. All right. So you see my screen, right? Jake? Okay. So I want to show everybody. I've been doing the 1 minute versus the 5 minute, right? And then people will always say, look at the lines. You know, first off, I think this looks really clear once you start looking at it, right?
Yeah.
You know, once you realize, man, look at this wonderful little play right here. Look at the reversal. You would have not seen on Qualcomm right here. You would have never seen this reversal if you had any other chart. You would have not known why it reversed down there because there's just no rhyme or reason behind it.
Yep.
And then look at this beautiful little reversal today, right? But because of these wonderful lines that people think are so confusing, you actually got to play a beautiful reversal that was almost a buck. Now, I want to show you guys something. And Jake, I know you'll love this. And this makes no sense at all, except we know that when we follow the stock market, they pick a stock that they want to get from 50 to 100 as fast as possible, and then they want to take it down from 100 back to 60, right?
Yeah.
So try getting shares to short Roku. You can't find it, but look at this ridiculous. What are we doing? Why is it doing that?
Oh, maybe you may have to refresh your screen. There may be, you may have to log in real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, it does that sometimes. Never in the middle of a trade, so we're good. I mean, I think this makes, I mean, you see this all the time. I mean, you can see the higher high, the lower highs and the lower lows real clear on this, right?
Yep. Just kind of stair stepping down to each, each indicator you have on the chart. So, it's cool to see, especially you were on the Roku chart before, but there was an area where there was a bunch of different confluences of different trend lines. And so that's one reason that for me, I don't use this many lines, but looking at it, it's very easy to see, okay, well, I can see the 5 minute trend lines crossing here. And then we can see that there's another EMA or an SMA. You have both, I think, on there. So, they all become self-fulfilling together. And so the more things you're looking at, the more data that can be explained essentially from that. So no, it's that's kind of the one thing we talk about a lot is longer term indicators, trend lines from if you're on the 1 minute, if the 5 minute is your longer term time frame, or it's the daily versus the weekly. Generally, the longer term time frame is going to dictate the shorter term price action and where that's going. So that bounce off the green dash trend line right there is a great example of that.
Well, that, and also my favorite was right here. I kind of like, right, look at this right here. Look at all that. Trend line going down, 50 going down, VWAP going down, right? Eight going down on the 5, 20 going down, right, on the 1. And then look at this cross. I mean, it's just like everything is just, I mean, look at that move, and then look at the nice little target right to the 50. I mean, so I kind of get used to it. I've been looking at, it's funny, I've been putting TrendSpider on center stage lately. And I have found, and I want to tell people this, that my over the course, and I've measured against other charting software that I have, right? And Jake, and I'm gonna give you the best testimonial right now. The money that I made this week was off of TrendSpider.
Awesome.
Yeah, my biggest moves and the majority of my wins were off of all this, you know, which is really interesting. I had it up against 2 other softwares that I have, and now you guys get center stage sitting right there, you know, which is nice. I'm just waiting for you guys so I can actually do it on 3 screens and have different, because every time I put on another screen, they go, no, you logged into, you know, right?
No, it's coming. It's coming. That's for me too. I'm always using multiple tabs and multiple screens, so we definitely are working on getting that out. We actually have a pretty big release coming in the next week or so, so maybe we can do another video once that's released. We have a new candlestick coming that's completely new, volume based, and call it the raindrop candle. So be happy to show everyone that too when that's out.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But this is really, and it's funny because, as you know, I've been doing this now, sitting in the chair for almost a year. It's like my year anniversary coming up. And I'm share sizing higher now, right? Seeing more green days. Don't stay in long enough, but that's okay. That's a psychological barrier we need to get by, right? But I will sit and watch Apple almost for 6 hours some days, because it's just such a beautiful chart. You know, it's like all the time. Now let's show one that, and then we're going to talk about something that I think everybody needs to talk about, that fear of missing out. Look at this power chart. Tell me if this is not nice, huh?
Oh, that's beautiful.
I mean, look at the amount of buy opportunities just sitting there. I mean, look at this. This is another great thing. There's your Morningstar reversal.
Yep.
I mean, so you could have, right? You could have missed every single move and said, man, is Roku ever going to stop? And no, it probably won't stop till it hits 100, because that's what Square did. Remember when Square had their run to 100?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is just, you could sit here all day long and just wait for this. And look at, there's such minimal risk. You're talking, you got 18 cents of risk on a highly volatile stock, and you've taken it, you can go all the way up. There's $1.50 right there. So that was my testimonial. Now we're not going to talk about that at all. You guys can look and see Roku on its power trend. So Jake, what do you think of crypto, man?
Oh man. Well, it's back, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's back.
Yeah, and it's funny that I'm talking about crypto because I was never really a believer in it, and I'm still hesitant. It's not that I'm don't believe in crypto. It's more of the whole, which coins are really going to be the ones that succeed, I guess. Because the way I see this is, it's no different than 1999, 2000, when the internet was coming out. Everyone's like, what's the internet? That sounds sketchy. You put your information on the internet and people can see it. And, that's when the first tech bubble was, when the internet came out, and no one really understood what it was. They knew for sure that it was changing the status quo of how we, receive and send information, but no one really understood it. And so there was a lot of euphoria back in 2000. We had the big bubble, and obviously it crashed, and we kind of have seen that in crypto over the last 2 years. And it's interesting because the dip was bought up pretty quick. I mean, there was some huge irrational exuberance in that whole time, but it seems like the intrinsic value is coming back. And back in 2000, the internet was only a few years old, and blockchain is essentially kind of that now. So the tech companies back in 2000 were no different than all of these coins now. You had the big companies like Microsoft back then. You had Google just coming out. I don't even think Google was public back in the 1999, maybe it was. But, you had all these huge tech companies, Yahoo. And it's no different than your Bitcoin, your Ethereums, your Litecoins, your Ripples. But then you have all these other coins that are all out there too. And, there's going to be some coins that are going to, I think, do really well. Just like there were some websites back in 2000 that nobody really knew about that weren't like the popular ones that became really, successful later down the road. So I think we're in that stage where the adoption is starting to happen. The last couple of weeks, I have read articles that, Home Depot, Amazon, Whole Foods, which is part of Amazon,
Starbucks.
AT&T is accepting crypto, Bitcoin. And so, that adoption is no different than, back in the early 2000s when all of these storefronts were kind of starting to have a website. It was kind of like it's that next step, that early adoption. And so for me, I'm just trading it based on the technicals, but I'm starting to kind of understand the value proposition there for blockchain, and it's just kind of figuring out what coins are going to be the ones that really take off.
Are you, question for you, are you, and don't forget, there's rumors that TD Ameritrade and E-Trade and Schwab will start allowing you to trade Bitcoin and Ethereum, which to me, if the big guys get involved in that, you'll see institutional money, but more importantly, you'll have commission structures that whatever commission structure you've negotiated, and hello people, whatever your commission structure you negotiated, because all these companies, E-Trade, they might advertise $5.95 a trade, but let me tell you something, they want your money and they will take a lot less. Not to plug E-Trade or anybody else, but once these people, and it's funny because I see on I use TradeHawk, right? And then I see on my back end, there's crypto now. And Tradier is a very big hosting company for a lot of like little individual, platforms, right? So once that hits, because right now that's the biggest thing. I mean, you go on Coinbase and you want to put in a market order, you're going to hit, and you want to buy 2 Bitcoin, you just spent $200 on fees. I mean, some stupid number on fees.
Oh, at least I've been trading, I'm not saying this to brag, or it's not even bragging. I'm just saying how much I traded. I traded about, with about 12 to 14,000 in capital in the last couple weeks, and trading that capital, the round trip was $200 in fees. Whew. And then 2, the slippage or, the actual market price versus what they're giving it to you was sometimes another $50 to $75 on each side. So it's almost like you have to hold at least 10% to make any type of return because the commission is ridiculous. And so, like you said, if these Ameritrades and Schwabs come in and all of a sudden jack the pricing for commission down by 90% or whatever, that's going to increase the trading volume, and that's just going to add even more volume to the whole picture.
Oh, and that's what I'm kind of waiting for. I mean, I kind of look at it right now. I was in New York a couple of weeks ago when it was, every time I go to New York, my friend's big into crypto, right? Shout out to John Keegan, you guys know him. And every time I go there, it seems to go up $2,000, right? And I didn't buy because I like a clean in and out. I got no problem. That's why I don't trade stocks that have 14-cent spreads.
Yep.
Because if I want to get in with a market order, I want to get in with something that's got a 1-cent spread because I'm going to get in. And I want something that I know that if it starts to reverse, I'm going to get out pretty close to whatever price I see on the screen within a penny, right? And if you traded things like Baidu or Baba, or Netflix, I mean, you can get in at 370, make 70 cents, hit sell right away. For some reason or another, you got filled 30 cents below the 70 cents, right? So that to me is Bitcoin. And when I think when Bitcoin and some of those other coins go to TD Ameritrade, they're going to be exposed to a huge marketplace, and then FOMO is going to hit. And I really believe that, what are we at, 80? Can I pull it up on here?
Of course, BTC USD.
BTC.
And then just type in USD. It's probably at the very bottom.
Yeah, probably US. There it is. Symbol's not supported.
Okay. Yeah, it's too. You got to go on the higher time frame.
I do.
Maybe it's just your plan doesn't have crypto. Can you go to the 30-minute?
Should have it. I mean, I did the whole year thing, right? No.
Huh. Let's fix that. Let's fix that. Can I show my screen real quick?
Yeah. How do you
I'll just go.
I'm gonna stop the share. Now you hit share.
Share screen. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right. Yeah. So
this Litecoin's about to hit 100 again.
It is. Yeah. It hit 102 before we got on the phone.
You know what's interesting, Jake? Before you start, you know what's really interesting is that I don't use. Let me see what you're using on here. You're doing the 50 and the 200. You're doing the MACD. You're doing the volume.
It depends, right? So like this, I guess technically it gave us an all right signal. You know, like generally what I look for is the 20 SMA to cross the EMA 50. That's my biggest kind of cross that I watch for. So like if we went on the SPY, we could see that that's a really significant area. So here, last time we crossed here, went down huge. Then once it crossed to the upside, it went up. So, you know, if we cross down right here, that could be something to watch for sure.
So you're 20, 50, you're doing EMA or
20 SMA, 50 EMA.
Does it really, I mean, this is interesting. Okay. You know, and I've played with look at that channel resistance breakthrough. Where you got, and you got to tell me how you got that in there, because I don't have that.
Here?
Channel resistance breakthrough. Is that a different trend?
This is an alert. So, for example, if let's say we have resistance here, right? If the price goes anywhere within this area, I'll be alerted.
This thing is coming down.
I named it. So if I right click here and create an alert, I can do the same thing on the support. So, you know, the price has been really bouncing back and forth between this channel. So, you know, if you weren't really actively trading and just wanted to know when the price broke through this kind of what I would call a status quo changing move, because the price has really been in this area now for about 2 or 3 weeks. And so, you know, maybe you'd want to create an alert there, and I'd do the same thing. It'd be the channel support breakdown, and then I could choose my sensitivity. So for example, if you want to be alerted when the price gets anywhere within this area, you'd put it all the way to the right. But I generally like to do maybe, you know, a little bit outside of the trend line, but not as much. So maybe around here. And yeah, create an alert. And so anytime that the price gets out of these areas, you'll be alerted.
It's interesting. I'd like to maybe set my screen up, not today, but I want to set my screen up like yours, right? You know, with the alerts. I haven't touched the alerts yet, but man, the SPY is this is going to be an interesting summer.
Yep.
Because it's heading down.
I mean, check this out. If you you know, if you take a look at the daily, or excuse me, the weekly chart, you know, it's kind of weird, right? So we've got on the upper indicators, we're kind of triple topping here, or excuse me, the price action, and then you're also kind of topping out on the Williams percent range. And then notice how this is the biggest thing for me, right? We hit higher highs, so we had a higher price level. We can see that with this Just get rid of these. And this is divergence is one of the biggest things I use. So we've got this higher high here, barely, but it was a new higher high.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got this lower low on the RSI. So you can see here back in September of 2017, we were right around 64 on the RSI, and now we're down to 59. And so that's showing that momentum is kind of exhausting, even though we were hitting new highs. So, I think that we're probably about to go down too. And that is why I think Bitcoin is going to continue up. I think a lot of people are starting to hedge their bets with crypto in case, fiat currency doesn't become, a thing anymore. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. The one thing though is, right, the SMA 20 did just cross here through the EMA 50. So we'll have to see what happens. But, all in all, I don't think I'm as bullish on the market as I was a month or two ago. So
you want to pull an ugly chart up, pull Apple up.
Yeah, right. I mean,
this is ugly.
Woo.
I mean, look at that. Look at that from when it hit 215 and all it's done since then.
Woo! Check this out. This is kind of cool. Let me get rid of these. So this is an alert that I created the other day. And so this is how they work, right? I made the alert when the candle was right here. And so the next day it touched this resistance and I got an alert on my phone, and immediately it started tanking. And then I had another alert on the support, kind of like what we just did with the SPY with that channel. And when it touched this area, I got another text message and email that it touched the support, and then it bounced again almost exactly to this area. So I personally didn't trade this little ping pong back and forth between the wedge support and resistance, but that's one way that you can use the alerts to do that. So yeah, I definitely want.
You're gonna have to help me, with the alerts, because it's really like it's fascinating. The more you understand that. That's what I always tell people all the time. It's like, if you want to learn how to trade or you want to learn how to do anything, don't have FOMO, because there's going to be so many opportunities. Like if you look at Bitcoin right now at what, $8,100, if we go back to Bitcoin, right? I mean, this is, I it and I know people are going to call it the summer of Bitcoin, right? It's going to do its little thing because it's getting nothing but more and more hype, right? All the nerds, that are on YouTube, they're all talking about it hitting $100,000 and So they're doing all the hype. And if you look at it, these pullbacks are so fast, and we have such a long way to go to hit the $20,000 mark, where a lot of people are looking just to bail out because there are people who've just sat on it for so long. But look at the amount. I mean, we got a pivot right there. There's a little pivot right. What is that pivot at? Like 99, right around there. We're past that. We're almost past that. Yeah, that's the bigger pivot. What is that? 10,000? 99.56.
Yeah. This is the trend line I'm kind of paying attention to. Here. This general area. So,
it's crazy.
Or you can draw it a number of different ways, right? Or you could draw it this way as well. I'm curious what the system's finding for trend lines right now. Yeah, so the trend line, it's broken through some of the main areas of resistance, right? So this was previous resistance, then we broke through, then it was support twice, broke down, and now we're breaking out again. So this is a decent breakout, and there's quite a bit of money coming in. One cool thing that I'm not sure if I've showed you yet is the ability to backtest. So one thing that I use a lot is the vortex indicator. And what you can do now, the vortex indicator is this reversal indicator. It's essentially kind of like the MACD, except you can use it a little differently. But the signals are when the red is diverging from the blue, when it's on top and then starts to cross to the downside, that's generally a signal of a breakout or a trend reversal. Same thing with the blue. If the blue's on top and crosses to the downside, that's generally an indication of a breakdown. Now, what you can do is you can actually back test this and see how this has performed over time. So if we go back in time and we go to the strategy tester, and I say from my template, this would be a VI bull cross, I could go in, create the following. In this case, we're at the 25, so I need to change these to 25. So the thing I'm back testing is this signal. So my entry is the red crossing the blue to the downside. In this case, that's the VI negative, which is red, is crossing the VI positive to the downside. So it's less than. And then I can go in, my exit criteria. Let's say I want to know after 3 candles what the average return is. I can go and test that, and I'll get a return. And so now I know after this is crossed, on average, a 15% return will occur after 3 candles. And
so
I can even
where would an entry be, just for people that are listening right now? Because
right here.
Show me the entry. Right there.
Actually,
there's your entry.
You can paint it on the chart.
Basically, you're entering the high of that candle.
Anytime there is a cross, anytime that the red crossed the blue, so I can show that with this vertical line, and it says entry right there. So there's one, and then it's exit after 1.95% because we did the exit criteria after 3 candles. The next time it crossed was here, right here. And we can, or sorry, it moved over. But yeah, it's right around here. And after 3 candles, the return was 10%.
Interesting. Wow. So you're doing a 3 candle move before the pullback.
So what we could also do is we could even go to SPY and test how the EMA and the SMA relationship has been over X amount of time. So in this case, let's do the daily. We were talking about the EMA 50 and the SMA 20. And so in this case, let's look for maybe, our criteria would be, in this case, it would be, let me remove this.
This will work on any time frame too, right?
Correct. So, and we're on the daily right now. So it'd be the SMA 20 has crossed something, and that's the indicator, and that's the exponential 50. And so then we have to go in and define that. In this case, it's the indicator, same thing. SMA 20 is, I thought we added something, is less than the EMA 50. So that's saying, whenever this has crossed and becomes less than the yellow line, that's the signal for the entry or the exit. So this is our signal. And then we can say, let's test this after 5 candles. And go in, test that, and we can see what the average return is. In this case, the average return after 5 candles is actually positive. And so when we paint that on the chart, we can see these different criteria. Let me go to chart. Where's the, oh, sorry, we're on the daily. That's why it's not showing. Let's do on the weekly then.
And you guys have added a lot of cool stuff.
Yep. So in this case, here it is. When the purple crossed to the downside, that's when the entry was, and the exits after 5 candles. If we did this on the daily, we'd see a lot more entries and exits. So in this case, it's the.
Show it on the 5 minute. Let's see what it looks like on the 5 too.
Sure.
I'm curious to see what it looks like during intraday scalping mode.
5 minutes. Same thing here. And we'll get rid of the vortex indicator. Do the condition. That's the 5 minute indicator, which is the SMA has crossed the EMA 50. Same thing. The SMA is less than the EMA 50. And we can test that after, let's say, 10 candles. Go in and test that. The mean trade return is 0.04, so not really that significant. And then we can paint these entries and exits on the chart. So really, you can do all types of things. Let's say that we wanted to maybe test a MACD cross. We could do that as well. Get rid of this, get rid of this. So anytime, what our conditions here could be, anytime that there's a MACD cross, oops, this is a template that I made previously.
It's great when you know. It's great when you know how to work the entire system.
Yeah, right.
It's like, to me, I'm such a bad technical person. I'm like, looking at this, I'm like, I'm gonna have to rewatch my own video.
Yeah, we'll do some training. So here, right? This is the entry, and we had the exit as a time frame before. Well, let's say that we want to do this as a script. So this was a MACD bull cross, and then let's say we want to go to the script and test anytime there was a MACD bear cross as your exit strategy. We could do MACD bear, test that, and we get the information, same thing. You can then draw it on the chart. So anytime that there is a MACD cross, it will show you that and then show you the return.
Look at the return. What's the return? What's the return percentage on this one?
It's only 0.10%. So the one thing right now, and this will be changing soon, but this will only give you the return on the exit criteria. So for example, let's do, where's one? That's a good example.
I mean, you could really use your own, the great thing about this is that you can see what the market conditions are around it, and you can see pivot points and everything else. And don't, I would say, like, don't take every trade that anything paints for you. Make sure everything else is in the parameters of what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's more of just showing you where exactly this happened in the past and showing what the return was. But the thing is, right, so in this case, this entry was right here, and then the exit was negative 0.65. But right now, the system isn't taking into account the variation in price within that time frame. So we're going to get the statistics on what was the max gain, what was the max drawdown. So right now, just saying the mean is a little blurry because you're not catching what the volatility was in between the entry and the exit. So those statistics are coming, and we are very excited about this particular feature and where it's going from here.
It's really amazing, I mean, I told you on another podcast, I traded in 2003, and that was really trading. I mean, that was hard, I mean, because there was nothing that painted on your screens. Now you have so much stuff that paints on your screens. There's a lot of people that think it doesn't work or it benefits, but I mean, there's just so much. When you go back, and this is, I think, the biggest psychological issue for people, right? The biggest psychological issue is if you go back and you watch it work, moving forward, the probability that it will work again is good. But as you know, in trading, nothing, everything works some of the time, right?
It's all about probabilities, and that's position sizing, probabilities. You could have a really, really bad trade, but if you're only in 0.5% of your portfolio, it doesn't really matter. But if you went in your whole portfolio, you blow it up. So it's all about that risk reward, probabilities, and just kind of managing your risk at the end of the day, and taking what you have and using it how you can.
So you're big 50 and the 20, which is a really good, on any time frame, the 50 is really, really good. Because even if it's a 1 minute scalp, what's going on within the last hour, and then if you go to the daily, what's going on for the last 50 days. I mean, there's a big thing now. Going back to Bitcoin, right? What is your prediction? What do you think is going to, realistically happen? I
have no idea. But if I was gonna base it off the next 6 months, just based on trend lines and well, first, these are the trend lines that the system's finding, right? So we've already broken through some of these main areas. So that's the first thing I'm looking at is a big momentum change. And then when I, add a couple of the trend lines I like to look at just manually, we'll see that like kind of, let's see, I'll probably draw it from here to here. So, that's around resistance right now. So this could be an area once again to fail, but there's already been so much volume in this area. I think it's probably going to break out. And the fact that you've got all this recent news about AT&T now accepting Bitcoin and all that, I think it's just going to add to the fever. And, I don't pay attention to Bitcoin as much as I do like Ethereum or Litecoin, just because what I like to do is, well, this isn't the case really anymore because Bitcoin is kind of stalled out for now, but I generally like to look for what's leading, right? So Bitcoin is generally leading the market. So I don't want to trade Bitcoin because, I don't really know what it's going to do. But if I know something else is following it and it's 20% behind, then I'll just buy Litecoin or Ethereum and know that it's got 20% to catch up to Bitcoin. So it's a less risky trade for me. So it's kind of like just catching the lagging trade, essentially. So, but for me, man, this just looks like it's coiling and ready to absolutely rip. So if I were to guess, I'd say we're at 9,000 by the end of the weekend. That's a bold statement, but there's just a ton of momentum. There's a couple things, right? That's the crazy thing about crypto is, one, the whole world is trading it. So that adds a variable. But then, the U.S. is still a pretty big market for crypto. So on Memorial Day, on Monday, when everybody's itching to trade and they can't on the U.S. stock market, they're going to want to trade crypto. And so that's going to also add to the volume over the weekend, regardless of what happens. And so it just becomes like this self-fulfilling thing. Enough people play it, it's just naturally going to move up in price. And a lot of these big crypto guys are now saying, okay, we've gotten past that point where we were going to break down. It's kind of held its gains, and from now on, just hold. Well, if these people are telling all of their followers to just hold, then nobody is adding to the supply. And so if everybody holds, then the supply dries up, which causes the price to go up if, demand stays constant or even increases. So I think that it's only going higher from here.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you watch it, and you think to yourself, it breaks this trend line. I'll take the retest that breaks the trend line. I'll wait for it to burst through. I'll wait for it to retest, because that's what, if you take a look at it, Bitcoin really does that a lot. Everything does. The second move is the more powerful move, not the first move. And I just think that I'll tell you, if this thing just takes off like a rocket ship, you're going to have like the nerd patrol out there, all those guys putting their videos. They're going to say, I told you so. And if you think about it, maybe, who knows, maybe these crazy predictions of it hitting $1 million, of it hitting $100,000, maybe.
Well, if you think about it, right now, Apple in itself is worth almost $1 trillion, just that company alone. And, the whole market cap of crypto right now is maybe at this point 300 billion. So all the money in crypto right now is less than 1/3 of the total capitalization of just Apple alone.
Wow.
So, if you think of it that way, and this becomes a $5 trillion industry, then some of these crazy valuations start to make sense. Not the $1 million, but the 50 to 100,000 Bitcoin. That's where those valuations I think are coming from. Where you start to realize Bitcoin has a set supply. There's only so many that are going to be created. The US dollar doesn't. They're always, printing more USD. So that's always going to kind of tamper the price and keep it consistent and stable. But you don't have that with Bitcoin. And so it's almost going to be like that gold, like a digital gold, what they're calling it. And that's kind of how I look at it. For me, I don't know anybody my age who, if there was a recession, is going to be like, hey guys, I think I'm going to buy a bar of gold. I think it's much more likely these days to say, hey, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin.
It's so true, because it is being fueled by a lot of younger people. And this is your, and I love to like put it this way. It's like, this is your tech book. This is your tech book. This is your thing. And it's and the fact is, the matter is that it's funny, like the millennials are talking it up like there's no tomorrow. And there's a lot of millennials, and if and this is where the power comes in. If every millennial goes and buys just a little bit, then the millennials talk to their dads, right? And they tell their dads, look, you got to go and buy this. Then the dads who play golf with all the old school people, go, well, I just won't do that, And that's why I think like the first platform, Schwab, TD Ameritrade, E-Trade, that can go and stick this on there is going to win huge, because all the dads are hearing it. Then all of a sudden they go, well, it's not on TV. I don't want to go on this thing called Coinbase Pro. What is this thing, right?
Sketchy thing.
Yeah, what's this sketchy thing? And the fact is, millennials grew up with sketchy things. I mean, you guys grew up in everything in tech was so different and interesting, and you saw this. So to you, it's not even sketchy. I mean, Robinhood is cool. Can you trade it on Robinhood? You can trade it on Robinhood, right?
Yeah. Yep.
With zero commission, right?
Yep, got to be careful of the spread. If you do a market order on Robinhood, you're
in trouble.
Yeah, some people don't realize that, and they end up placing a $10,000 market order and wonder why they, just spent, $250 in commissions, indirectly from the spread. So, but yeah, so there's perks to Robinhood for sure, but there are I personally like to do market orders. So if I'm going to get a crappy market order, I'm not a huge fan, but it's a great platform for people who don't really care about that.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting summer. I mean, the stock market looks like it's heading down.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you see a blue chip stock like Apple lose $30 or $35 just because there's a trade war going on, it creates all that fear. So there's fear in the stock market right now, and then there's euphoria in crypto, which is like the perfect storm for people to go, well, maybe I should try this crypto thing. I mean, I believe, I think it's crazy. I don't even know what it is, and I do know the blockchain technology and everything else, but I just think that I think people who do not play in it, and I played in it right at the height and lost some money, but right now it's like, man, every indicator is saying buyer, take off.
I was always pretty against it, honestly. I never participated back in the 2017 move. I solely did analysis on it when I had my subscription and was just providing that. But now I feel like it's deja vu, and I'm definitely not going to miss the chance. I'm just saying what I'm trading. I'm trading Litecoin right now just because of that reason, right? Litecoin really hasn't moved like Bitcoin or Ethereum in this round of uptrend. So I really, for me, I'm looking at this 108, 109 level above, and I have this alert on that trend line above in case we do touch that area. So, that would be a hard resistance, but it can easily be broken through if we've got that weekend euphoria coming in. I like to call it the weekend warriors. So they come in there, they want something to trade. The stock market's closed, so they start trading Bitcoin, or crypto, or whatever crypto they want to do. So
I mean, look at Litecoin today. It's at $12.
Yep.
I mean, but look at the great candle that set it off before. I mean, yep. and the great thing is that if you guys use TrendSpy, here comes a plug, right? I'm going to do the plug. If you guys do that, that candle will alert you and literally tell you, hey, look, we've just got, that's one of the candle alerts that I have, that one sitting right there before that monster, for that
yep.
massive monster bar, So
yeah, I woke up at 2 o'clock this morning and just had this weird feeling, and went to my Coinbase and was like, whoa, something's going on with Litecoin. This was like 95, 94.50, and it just seemed different than what we've been seeing the last week or two, and so I had to jump in. So, I've heard too many of these news stories about these bigger companies adopting it, and I just think that's going to continue to add to the fever. But I hate to cut you off, but I actually have to go. I've got a busy day because I'm heading to Vegas for a bachelor party this weekend. So if I'm still alive by next week, let's get another one of these going, and maybe we can chat about where crypto is in a week.
Yeah, definitely. And so you are in Denver next weekend.
Yes.
Oh, you are. I'm in Denver next weekend.
Okay, let's do it. Perfect. I was going to New York, and that changed. So I would love to meet up, and we can chat more. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll have my dog. I have a date with me. So, she's a really beautiful little smart 8.5-year-old. Yeah, let's definitely connect. And then for all of you, trendspider.com, there'll be links down below.
Yep. And if you're interested at all about learning more about the platform, you can go to just trendspider.com, as you mentioned, and we have a free trial. So no obligation to get an account set up, and just give it a try. So thank you so much for having me on, David. I appreciate it big time.
You're welcome. Hang out one second. I'll give you a proper goodbye. Let me just pause everything, okay?